One year, my family and I took a vacation to Disneyland and stayed overnight in one of the hotels they have at the park. It was one of the oldest ones they had and was built back in the 1950s. Even though it was older, the building was stunningly beautiful with a classic design. My family and I checked in and then made our way through the lobby to the elevator. The bellman and my parents were making small talk, and he casually asked if we had heard that the hotel was haunted. He then went on to tell us a bunch of scary paranormal experiences he had since started working there. Apparently, the ghost was a man who died building the theme park many years ago. The legend was that the man was so angry that so many people got to enjoy the park that cost him his life. That was why he tried getting revenge by spooking hotel guests. I thought the story was interesting, but I was pretty skeptical and didn't believe that ghosts were real. But my younger brother was pretty creeped out, and my parents had to comfort him by telling him that there were no such thing as ghosts. After dropping our stuff in our hotel room, we headed to the park where we spent the day. We came back to our room pretty late at night. My parents and little brother wanted to call it a day and go to bed, but I wanted to get a workout in. There was an exercise room on the main floor, and I decided to check it out. My parents were fine with me going as long as I got back before midnight. I left the room and made my way to the elevator. The bellman had gone home and it was just me in the elevator. I pressed the button for the main floor and then gasped as I felt a wave of ice-cold air come over me. I looked around to see if there was an air vent or something that caused the draft, but I didn't see anything. A shiver ran down my spine, and I was relieved when the elevator doors finally opened and I could get out. The lobby was mostly vacant except for some staff members running the front desk. The exercise room was at the very end of the hallway. When I got there, I was excited to see that it was empty and I would have the whole room to myself. I picked a treadmill and started it up. It was about 10 minutes into my workout when all of a sudden a song came blasting on the speakers full volume. There had been no music playing the entire time, so the music came as a complete shock, and it nearly made me fall off the treadmill. The song was old and creepy and sounded like something from 50 years ago. I scrambled around trying to figure out how to turn it off, but then the music stopped as quickly as it had started. My heart was pounding. Was somebody playing a trick on me? Had it been some sort of technical error? Maybe the music was on some sort of timer that got messed up. I was so shaken that I considered going back to the hotel room, but I was determined to finish up my workout. I moved over to the weight section and selected 2 dumbbells. After I was done lifting one, I placed the weight down and reached for the second weight, but my fingers touched nothing. I looked down to where I had left the weight, but there was nothing there. The weight had been placed back on the rack where it was before. I felt my stomach drop as a strange sensation came over me. The bellman had been right. This place was definitely haunted. I grabbed my stuff and left the exercise room, eager to get back to my family. I was too scared to get in the elevator again, so I decided to take the stairs. We were on the 12th floor, so this was going to be a bit of a trip. I was on the 3rd floor when I began to hear music playing. It was the same old, creepy song that was in the exercise room. I began climbing the stairs faster and heard a man's laughter right behind me. I spun around, but there was no one there. I kept going up, moving as fast as I could. Then I heard a voice again. It said, "You better run." This time I didn't look back. I just kept going until I reached the hotel room. I've never been back to the hotel since, and I'm so glad that our family only spent one night there. I used to work at Disneyland, and all the employees there knew the story of a gruesome death that had once taken place there. It was the year 1966, and a 19-year-old boy decided he was going to sneak into the park. His name was Thomas Cleveland. He jumped over a fence and climbed onto the monorail track. The monorail is a transportation system that takes guests from one section of the park to another. A security guard saw what the boy was doing and urged him to get down, but he didn't listen. When he tried to run away, he was hit by the monorail, which was going at a fast pace. He was dragged nearly 50 feet before the monorail could stop. When I worked at Disneyland, I would often be there late at night to make sure everything was running smoothly and to help out in any way I was needed. I loved that even at night, there was always lots of buzz and activity going on. There was always a sense of energy and excitement in the air. I was walking along the main section of the park, the tracks of the monorail out in the distance. I was looking at the tracks when all of a sudden I saw a figure clinging to the tracks. He hoisted himself up and then climbed to his feet. I glanced down at my phone to check the time and my heart nearly stopped. There was still a little more than an hour before the park officially closed. This meant that the monorail would still be running. I could barely believe my eyes and started sprinting to the tracks as fast as my feet would carry me. I began screaming at the figure to get down, but they only continued to stare to the side. It was as if they were waiting to get run over. To my absolute horror, I heard the monorail and saw it approaching in the distance. I screamed as loud as I could, begging the figure to get down. The monorail got closer and closer until it was only about a foot away from the figure when all of a sudden the figure disappeared into thin air. I was speechless as I watched the monorail continue on its way. To this day, I believe the figure was that of Thomas Cleveland, who had come back to haunt the trails. I'll never doubt that shots ever exist again. When I was younger, I went on a trip to Disneyland with my class. There were about 40 of us students and around 8 teachers that came along. We were instructed to stay with our group and not run off under any circumstances. I had never been to Disneyland before, so I was very excited. It was a very hot day and the park was completely packed. My classmates were all wearing bright yellow shirts with our school's name on it, so we would be easier to identify by our teachers. I was careful to stay with my group as we went through the check-in process and made our way into the park. There was so much activity around us, from people screaming on nearby roller coasters to babies crying and lots of children running around. We came to a clearing and I could finally see the attraction I had been most excited about, Cinderella's Castle. I paused to admire it, my mouth open in shock over how dazzling it was. It was really just as gorgeous as it looked on TV. I took my eyes off of the castle and looked around. I was unsettled to realize I could no longer see my group. I ran ahead to see if I could catch up with them, my eyes searching for any sign of the yellow shirts, but I saw no one I recognized. My heart began to beat faster, and I felt myself going into panic mode. I didn't carry a cell phone at the time, and I had no idea how to get into contact with my teachers. I felt tears forming in my eyes as I walked around in circles, having a full-blown anxiety attack. Suddenly, I felt a tap on my shoulder. It was a middle-aged man wearing a black t-shirt, a baseball cap, and jeans. He had a concerned look on his face and asked me if I was lost. I told him that I was, and he told me that there was a park employee and he could help me get reunited with my classmates. He told me to follow him and I did, desperate for any help I could get. We walked and walked until we reached a more secluded section of the park. The man led me into an unmarked building that was dimly lit. I began to get a bad feeling in my chest as I looked around and saw that I didn't see anyone in the halls. I decided to trust my gut feeling and I took off running in the opposite direction of the man towards the exit of the building. The man chased me, calling for me to come back, but I just kept running. I got out of the building and ran through the streets until I reached the main section of the park and passed an employee with a Disneyland logo on their shirt. I told them I needed help and they guided me to a station where there were phones and other employees. Luckily, they were able to reunite me with my group. I still wonder what would have happened to me if I had kept following that man. Have you ever had a really strange time at Disneyland? Drop a comment and don't forget to like and subscribe. Until next time.
You have been given a chance. One single opportunity. Just for you, little one. You don't have to endure the tribulations about to be unleashed. You can escape all of that misery. All you have to do
is listen to my voice. As before, it begins the same.
A faint hum vibrates from the sky that tickles the back of your throat. The resonance builds to a thunderous, resounding blast of one of the 7 celestial trumpets. Each time that horrible sound is heard, it has heralded the start of another 3 years of suffering, each more horrifying than the last. 4 times has the trumpet sung its song. Before the echo of the 5th trumpet fades, you will be given a chance to escape. When that familiar tickle reemerges, an object will appear in the sky. As it nears, the intensity of the deep tone grows. You know it is only a matter of time before the deafening blast is heard once more. However, this time, what is to come will be different. The past 4 soundings of the trumpet brought with them disasters never seen in such magnitude, yet you understand what they were. Yes, they were terrifying, but it was all within the realm of your understanding. You know what makes the earth roll and quake. You know why fiery mountains fall from the heavens. Knowledge has freed you from the archaic belief in the supernatural. No longer does such nonsense deceive you into believing the displeasure of a god will call the hurricane, or a curse will summon the cyclone, or a hex will bring down the plague upon you. It is something different that approaches from above. It is an abomination. It is wormwood. The Hebrews called him Abaddon the Banished, and the Greek knew him as Apollyon the Destroyer. Life as you knew it is now over, for he holds the keys to the bottomless pit that has imprisoned his army since even before the words "Let there be light" were spoken. Do you remember the first time we spoke, little one? After the second trumpet sounded, you were given a vision of the pools of Nakhura Seshera. If you were able to find the location of those sacred waters, go there now. 3 pools sit at the end of a T-shaped rock formation. As the moon peeks out from the horizon, its crimson light gives the waters the appearance of blood. The higher it rises in the sky, long shadows are cast. Upon the rock, the likeness and resemblance of a man outstretched upon the rocks will appear before you. Stand in the center of the 3 pools. Tread carefully, for you stand before the image of the sacrament laid upon his symbol. Each pool has a name: the pierced left hand, the pierced right hand, the pierced foot. Before you prepare to receive the blessings of the pierced abdomen, it requires you to be anointed with the ethereal spearhead that will now run you through. There is no outward wound, but blood is now seeping internally into the empty places within you. Your body has now become the 4th pool of sacrifice. When you collapse from the pain, ensure that you fall into one of the pools of water. If you fall onto dry earth, you will have missed your only chance to enter the portal, and you will lose the atonement. As punishment, your wounds will be healed, but you will live the remainder of your days marked as was Cain, hunted by both angel and demon. If successful, you will awaken in a dark, candlelit stone building, lined with pews ending at a great altar. You stand upon the place of worship where the crossroads meet. Behind you are 3 mirrors, very similar in orientation to the pools of water you recently stood before. Shake off the chill from your wet body and make haste, little one. Time moves differently here, and we must move quickly. Look to the altar. Do you see it? There, in the shadows, a figure is kneeling in the distance. Slowly and cautiously approach it. The creature is tall and hooded. It should be deep in prayer, whispering strange incantations. If it is not, do not come any closer. Only approach if it is in prayer. Do not interrupt. Any disruption will be considered a great offense, resulting in a painful death for you. Kneel in front of it. Bow your head. Do not make eye contact, and wait. Be patient, and make no mistake, it knows you are there. Once it has considered you and deemed you worthy, it will acknowledge your presence. However, if it decides you are not worthy, well, there isn't really much more that needs to be said now, is there? It will ask you,
Why have you come before me?
Quickly tell it, I seek passage over the bridge. It will take its time before answering.
You lack the knowledge to accomplish such a deed.
Be brave, little one. Once these words depart your lips, there is no turning back. The creature towers above you. I seek the knowledge of the forbidden. I wish to know. What is the image of God? It will slowly lift its head. Close your eyes and shut them tight. You will hear its body creaking like breaking branches of a tree. It leans close, taking in your scent from the air. Its hands hover and encircle over you. The fingers glide in the air, following the shape and curves of your body, coming ever so close but never quite touching you. A deep, quivering exhale of breath escapes the creature's mouth, and it makes contact with your skin. It caresses your face with one hand, as the other rises slowly to embrace your head from the nape of the neck. Its bony fingers envelop your entire head from behind. Even with your eyes closed and its mouth unseen, you can tell it is pleased with what it holds. You can tell it is smiling. It will grab you by the wrist and lift you off the ground. The ferocity of its grip is both sensual and violent. You're helplessly dangled above the ground as it brings you closer to the face hidden in the shadows, underneath its dark and worn hood. Its breath coats your face with a prickly dust that stings your skin. Droplets of saliva fall from its mouth and hit the ground as a scabbed tongue emerges from underneath the hood. It slides and probes the entire surface of your face until it finds particular interest in where your eyes rest. It is here where it wants to enter. The cold, lumpy tongue will start pushing and poking, squeezing and groping the tops of each eyeball through your eyelids. Pressure builds in your head from your closed eyelids as it continues to violate the fragile organs that hide behind your thin eyelids. The scabs feel like hundreds of little fingers. Its fingernails quickly find where your eyelids meet and begin to scratch viciously to try to pry them open. Shut your eyes tighter. The little fingers intensify their efforts to dig into your eyes with raw and obscene desperation. One of the scabby protrusions bursts, coating your face in a hot, sticky, tar-like fluid that slightly burns. The putrid afterbirth from the abscess spill onto you as the tongue continues to throb relentlessly on the surface of your closed eyes. Suddenly, the tongue withdraws and there is silence. Keep your eyes shut and wait. Eventually, you begin to make out a faint sound coming from the being. It is a cross between a moan and a hum. It is not quite a voice singing, as there is no melody to the sound, but like melodic singing, there is a flow to the tones and variation in the intonation. Listen carefully, as the words will emerge for you to hear.
It happened after the sons of Adam had multiplied in those days. The angels, the children of heaven, beheld them, and some became enamored with the image from whence he was created. They conspired amongst each other and said, "Come, let us select for ourselves from the progeny of men." And so we were drawn onto them by insatiable hunger and thirst, a sensation unfamiliar to our kind. We then swore all together, and all bound ourselves by mutual execrations to abandon our holy station. We descended upon Ardis, which is the top of Mount Armin, and devoured all which the labor of men produced. To our delight, the flesh of man cried out to us in return and embraced our new form. They loved us, and we came to love them. Never had such pleasures of skin, pleasures of sight, pleasures of tongue, and pleasures of mind been experienced by any living thing. Man was shown the wondrous transcendence of the grotesque and reveled in the vile decadence of purity. During our time together, we taught them sorcery and incantations. We gave them knowledge of the forging of metal and healing with herbs. We instructed them in ways of agriculture and mathematics. We revealed power so great it allowed them to command the atom from within the rocks of the mountain and from the water of the sea. We freed their minds and released them from the enslavement of the Father. In turn, they worshipped us as their love for us strengthened. They basked in our adoration, but it was not true love we bestowed. It was deception. Our actions and deeds came with dire consequences. We had angered the Creator and desecrated his creation. Mad with rage, the Father plunged his hands into the fabric of reality and altered the delicate strands of fate and possibilities. With this divine manipulation, he altered the pattern and set into motion a new future in the predestined plan. We had been judged. We had condemned ourselves and humanity to an eternity of suffering and pain. Our bodies would be scorched and burned until the end of time in a lake of fire and brimstone. However, all was not lost, for we had discovered the forbidden secret. Man, they were our true salvation. We prepared and molded them in our image, and when they were ready, we begot the Nephilim.
It will lean closer and whisper into your ear ever so softly.
I shall grant thee thy request, for it is the seed of the holiest of lies, the very lie that brought forth original sin. A great harvest will come about from that seed, a seed that is the very fruit of the knowledge of good and evil. It is such forbidden knowledge that binds the Creator to the laws of his creation, a way to deceive the eyes of the one who is all-seeing and thwart the mind of the one who is all-knowing. But be warned, for if I bestow this wisdom onto thee, forever will it restrain thee to my will. Behold, the answer thou seek is, thou art not of the image.
Then it stops. You are alone in the darkness. Slowly open your eyes. I know you are scared, little one, but it is safe now. Get to your feet. The great altar has split open and revealed an entrance that allows you to proceed onward. The pain in your side must be getting worse by now. I can see a protrusion the size of an apple has formed on your side. You don't have much time. Enter the altar and move on. You enter a large opening with a dark ravine separating you and a structure containing stairs, leading up to what appears to be a temple. From the ravine grows thick black thorns that slightly sway, even though there is no wind. Their points glisten with a substance that can only be poison. Do not get too close. In the center of the ravine is a single pathway that juts up from the thicket of needles and thorns that will provide you a safe passage to walk on. The pathway ends at the far end, to the foot of the stairways of the temple. At the top of the stairs, there will be 4 thorns, where the ones known as the 4 living creatures reign. They are covered with eyes in front and in the back, and they look down on you with an unnerving, mischievous stare. The first living creature is that of a lion, the second is like an ox, the third will have the face of a man, and the fourth is like a great eagle. Each of the 4 living creatures will have 6 wings covered with eyes all around, even under its wings. At the foot of each creature, a body on its knees chants continuously before them. Their faces look up to the sky, and their arms pulled and stretched outward by barbed shackles embedded into their flesh. The monocles stretch and contort their limbs to mimic the act of eternal worship. Its flesh is bleached white and heavily scarred from head to toe. It wears a blood-red smock from its waist down to its feet and holds a dirty curved blade in its hand. Branded on their backs is a rune that bears the resemblance of a cross with hooked ends. Consider yourself fortunate they have their backs towards you. Consider yourself fortunate they have their backs toward you, and their mutilated faces are obscured from your view. They are the Bai-Ish. Cautiously move past them. The Bai-Ish were 4 men, great kings and leaders of the world. They ruled vast lands that ran red with innocent blood from every man, woman, and child who had the misfortune of being born into their kingdom. The 4 kings were like grown children, spoiled and naked, fighting each other, biting and gnawing at the teats of their great mother Earth, her face beaten and scratched from when they would feed so viciously. They knew only to gorge on her black milk that flowed from deep within her bosom. Their greed and decadence, their very existence offended all who could peer into your world. Their wicked lives were ended the day they were raptured and bound like statues within the walls of this great temple. They must now worship the 4 living creatures, as they once commanded others to worship them in life. They suffer now, as their kingdom suffered. For every son and daughter who found death from fighting the wars they created, their skin is blistered and torn, and their eyes are stung with the venom from the tails of 1,000 scorpions. But be warned, if they are awakened from their trance and given use of their limbs once again, one can be well assured they would not be too pleasant. In unison, the 4 creatures will hold up a key, each with a unique emblem on its end, and speaks. The first creature that looks like a lion will offer you its key and say,
Acquiesce.
The ox will offer you its key and say,
Leviathan.
The third creature with the face like a man offers its key and says,
Clithridiate.
Lastly, the creature that is like an eagle will offer you the final key and say,
Scytherism.
As the last key is presented, you hear brittle crackling, like autumn leaves from the movement of dead skin from behind you, followed by the loud clank of chains falling to the ground. Make your choice. Make it quickly. The Bai-Ish are beginning to stir. Once they see you, they will catch you. and they will kill you. Make your choice. You will know which one to choose, I promise. Take the key and run. Run faster. Run faster. They are coming. Their howls are high-pitched gurgles and hisses. The screeches build as they close the distance between you and them. The slices of their blades come closer and closer. The blood pouring out of your mouth and nose cannot slow you down. Run faster. Run faster. Do not stop until you reach the church of worship. Head straight for the dark glass you saw when you first awoke in the church. Do not slow down. Run head first into it. Crash into the mirror. Do not look back. Do not look back. Whatever you do, do not look back. You will awaken shortly. The pools of water are now dried up earth, cracked and barren. The moon should be at its peak height in the sky, covering the land in its red glow. In the distance of the plain, you should see a piercing shimmer of light. It is only temporary. As the moon loses its red shade, the beacon too begins to diminish in darkness. I am sorry you are in so much pain, dearest little one. It pains me to ask any more of you. Your body has so little left to give. It is so weak and fragile. But I must ask one last thing of you. One final plea I must beg of you. You must reach that beacon of light in the distance before that last of the red moon shines down upon it, or you will be trapped. I am here for you. Push aside all pain and despair. Listen to my voice and use everything you have left to get to the light.
Now!
Abaddon is here. Even from miles away, his arrival knocks you off your feet. Get up, little one. There isn't much time. Abaddon is near, and his thoughts are of nothing but you. You see the brilliant beam of light shoot up into the sky. The source of this powerful beacon comes from an archway standing on an empty plain. Within the archway is a massive and majestic door standing in the emptiness. With the key in hand, you must get that door open before the red moon shines down upon it no more, and any hope of saving you is lost forever. Ignore the wheezing sound you make when you breathe. Pull open that door. The blood on your hands is everywhere, making it hard for you to get a good grip on the door handle. Pull harder. You only need to open it enough for you to squeeze through. The light is almost gone. Pull! 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 You did it. Get inside and shut that door as fast as you can and lock it. The light is gone. It is done. If you place your ear to the door, you may hear something that sounds like buzzing or fluttering, a sound that can only be made by the flapping of millions of wings. There will be scraping, and there will be beating on the other side of the great door. Then only screams. Behind you is a large, dark tunnel with a light at the end. Walk into the light and claim your reward, my little one. I walked into the bright light. Slowly, my eyes adjusted to the brightness, but I could already feel a warm breeze on my face and hear a trickling from a nearby stream. Everything slowly comes into focus. The most beautiful valley spanned out in front of me. It was made of hills and green, sprinkled with every color imaginable, where the most beautiful flowers peppered the landscape. I walked towards the clearing and I saw a crystal blue pond. I dipped my cupped hands into the water and drank. It soothed my chapped lips and parched throat. It was amazingly sweet, and there was an odd sensation as I swallowed the water. It was like a shock from a tiny bit of electricity, but without any pain, only satisfaction. I then caught the scent of something new and intoxicating. On the far side of the pond was a gathering of trees. I instantly knew that among these there was one that is the source of that unceasing smell. I knew there was no other like it. Its leaves, its flower, and its bark would never wither, and its fruit would be so beautiful and delicious. As I approached the border of the foliage, that's when I saw them, a man and woman. I froze. The couple were walking hand in hand. I think they're naked. I made my way closer, making sure to stay hidden behind the bush. I don't know why I was hiding from view. Why should I be afraid of a couple of naked people? Yep, they were definitely naked. I looked around and realized that my tree was at the center of the grove that held this paradise. But next to my tree was another tree. It was just as majestic and impressive, but there was something ominous about it, something powerful. I looked carefully at these two unique and special trees that grew in this garden. I now realized what this place was and where I am. I'm startled when I feel something vibrate in my pocket. It was the key I chose. As I removed the large key from my pocket and opened my palm, I noticed the markings on its emblem in more detail. When it was offered to me by the winged creature, I simply thought it was marked with the infinity symbol. Upon closer look, now I realized it was a serpent devouring its own tail in the shape of the infinity symbol. My mind was unlocked. It was all so clear now. I knew my purpose. I knew why I was created. It was always God's will to destroy his creation. Once destroyed, he could fulfill his promise to bind his enemies and cast them into the lake of fire, where they would suffer for all eternity. The trumpets were a countdown to his planned end. Those branded the enemy had spent their immortality trying to find a way to prevent it from happening. But how do you outsmart an omniscient and omnipresent being? You use the very laws of existence against him. For with the creation of the universe, laws had to be created. He had no choice but to subject himself to those laws for the universe to exist. The fallen ones realized the only way to prevent the end was to break the predestined, inevitable chain of events leading to the end. They must have figured out how to connect 2 points of existence, creating a bridge for me to enter. It causes everything to stop and reset back to the very beginning instead of continuing along the predestined path. It never ends. It never reaches Judgment Day. Existence was a loop. We are destined to keep repeating it over and over and over again to escape damnation. It was infinity. Like the serpent devouring its tail, the serpent was thought to be Lucifer, God's adversary, but Lucifer was not a thing or an entity with thought or consciousness. He was the infinity of time, the only thing capable of denying God's divine will. It was the one simple thing that is protecting us from the wrath of an angry God. I felt its familiar presence immediately. I don't turn around, but even if I did, I knew it would not harm me. It stood behind me for a while, quietly admiring its work. It gently placed a large and cold object in my hands before the fallen angel spoke the words that would be my final instructions. I looked down at the key, mesmerized by the shape of the serpent. It was so old and worn. The jewel that made up the serpent's eye twinkled in contrast to the bright red piece of fruit held in my other hand. I now understood. I had one more thing to do. I wondered how many times I have done this. How many times have I crossed the bridge and stood at this very spot? How many? Man was created in the image of God, but I am not of the image. I am the serpent. I am Nephilim. The breath of a faint whisper, now sweet and warm, was spoken into my ear. Just 5 simple words.
Make them eat, little one.